All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is Subhadra Ramachandran. The headlines. Polling begins for the fifth phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. Voting also underway for by-elections in 12 assembly constituencies and 2 Lok Sabha seats. Election Commission curtails campaign time for remaining 3 phases of West Bengal assembly elections in view of pandemic. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviews medical oxygen supply in the country, directs to increase production to meet growing demands. Ministry of Railways approves to transport liquid medical oxygen container trucks on roll-on, roll-off basis to save transportation cost and crucial time in view of surge in COVID cases. Nearly 12 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses administered so far in the country. Over 2,17,000 new cases of COVID reported in the past 24 hours. CISCE defers Class 10th and 12th board examination. Lockdown extended to 20 districts in Chhattisgarh to contain COVID spike. US President and Japanese Prime Minister hold talks in Washington to counter increasingly assertive China. And in sports, India clinches 7 medals in women's wrestling Asian Championship titles. Chennai Super Kings defeat Punjab Kings by 6 wickets in IPL cricket. As the number of COVID cases are on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower the guard, take all the precautions, and all those above 45 years to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. In West Bengal, polling for the 5th phase of assembly elections began this morning at 7 a.m. It will continue till 6:30 p.m. Over 1.12 crore voters will cast their votes. In all, 15,789 polling stations have been set up for this purpose. Now we go live to Darjeeling to get updates on the polling from our correspondent, Manas. Manas, how is the polling going on at present? What are the COVID precautions put in place?
Yes, I have visited some of the polling stations early in the morning at Darjeeling. So polling is very peaceful. No untoward incident has been reported. I have seen the enthusiast voters, especially the first-time voters. Let me tell you, there are around 26,000 first-time voters. I met some of them. They are very aware. They are very concerned. So polling is very peaceful. Regarding COVID protocol, all protocol have been followed regarding using of face masks, giving hand sanitizers to hand gloves, and there are, for social distancing, they have made circles. So all the precautions are being taken. Anuja?
Yes, Manas, as we have seen heavy voter turnout in the previous phases of elections, is COVID dampening the spirit of the voters this time around?
No, I don't think so. As I mentioned earlier, I visited several polling stations and there is no dearth of enthusiasm among voters, and voters are here very concerned. I have seen them wearing, mandatorily wearing face masks. They, queued properly, maintaining social distancing. They are disposing, they are using hand gloves properly. So they are very concerned, and district administration have also in this figures have taken this very good, awareness measures to let people know what the precautions they must take during the day of voting and what should be facilities are being provided to them. So I don't think there is the COVID situation would dampen the spirit. Back to you.
Yes, thank you, Manas, for that update. In this phase, Bharatiya Janata Party is contesting in all the 45 seats which are going to polls, while ruling AITC is contesting 42 seats. Congress, left parties and their alliance partner Indian Secular Front are fighting under the banner of Samyukt Morcha. BSP has fielded 32 candidates, CPIM 25, Congress 11, AIFB 2, RSP, NPP and CPI 1 each, while there are 83 independents along with 76 others also in the fray. The state is witnessing 8-phase elections. In view of the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic, the Election Commission has decided to allow maximum 1,000 electors in a polling station instead of earlier 1,500 electors. Option of postal ballot facility has been extended to the electors who are COVID-19 positive or a suspect as certified by a competent authority. Chief Electoral Officer of West Bengal, Dr. Ariz Aftab, had called an all-party meeting yesterday in Kolkata to discuss the election campaign-related matters during the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the polling is also underway for the by-elections of 2 Lok Sabha seats, Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh and Bengal in Karnataka, along with 12 assembly constituencies spread over 9 states. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged the people to vote in large numbers in today's 5th phase of West Bengal elections. He said the first-time voters in particular should exercise their franchise. Mr. Modi added that there are by-polls taking place in different parts of the country and asked the voters in the seats to vote in record numbers and strengthen the festival of democracy. In Madhya Pradesh, polling is underway for the by-election in Damoh Assembly seat. There is a direct contest between the ruling BJP and the Congress in this seat. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
In Damoh, around 2,40,000 voters, including 1,24,000 male and 1,15,000 female, will decide the fate of 22 candidates. Around 27% of the voters are between 18 to 29 years age group. 1,880 employees have been deployed for conducting the smooth polling process of 359 polling booths in Damoh. 123 polling stations have been identified as critical, while webcasting is being conducted at 219 polling booths. Additional Chief Electoral Officer Arun Kumar Tomar informed that the mask is mandatory for every voter. Soap and sanitizer are also being available at all the polling booths. With Anil Jain from Damoh, Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
In Gujarat, the polling for the by-election of Morwa Hadaf Scheduled Tribe Reserved Assembly seat in Panchmahal district began this morning. The polling has begun from 7 a.m. today, which will continue till 6 p.m. in the evening. The counting of votes will take place on 2nd of May. More than 2 lakh voters are eligible to use their franchise in today's polling. In view of the rising cases of COVID-19, Election Commission has curtailed the campaign timing for remaining 3 phases of West Bengal Assembly elections. It has extended the silence period from 48 hours to 72 hours. The Commission has also banned campaigning from 7 p.m. to 10 a.m. The poll body in its order has taken a serious view against the repeated violations of COVID-19 norms by political leaders, campaigners and candidates. Meanwhile, nearly 7,000 new COVID cases have been reported in West Bengal the day before the 5th phase of assembly elections. Total cases of COVID rose to 636,885 and 26 people have lost their lives due to COVID in the past 24 hours in the state. The state government has decided to increase the number of beds for COVID patients by 20% in government and 25% in private hospitals. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken a comprehensive review to ensure adequate supply of medical oxygen in the country. Mr. Modi has asserted that it is important to ensure synergy across ministries and state governments to maintain the adequate supply of oxygen. He has directed to increase production of medical oxygen to fulfill the growing demands. Prime Minister took a detailed review of the present situation of medical oxygen supply and its estimated demands in the 12 states which are witnessing rapid rise in the coronavirus cases. An overview of district-level situation in these states was presented to him. He was informed that the centre and states are in regular touch and estimates for projected demand have been shared with the states. He was informed that 4,880 metric tons of medical oxygen have been allocated to these 12 high-burden states for meeting their projected demand as on 20th April of this month. Additionally, 5,619 metric tons of medical oxygen have been allocated for the project demand as on 25th April and 6,593 metric tons for the estimated demand as on 30th April.
The Centre has asked all the states and union territories to ensure hassle-free inter- and intra-state movement of vehicles carrying medical oxygen. In a letter written to the Chief Secretaries of all states and union territories, Union Home Secretary Ajay Bhalla has asked them to fully comply with the supply chain prepared for distribution of medical logistics, including medical oxygen. Mr. Bhalla urged the state governments to ensure that no restrictions shall be imposed on oxygen manufacturers and suppliers to limit the oxygen supplies only to the hospitals of the state in which they are located. The centre has said that medical oxygen is an essential public health commodity and any impediment in its supplies can critically impact the management of patients suffering from COVID-19 disease in other parts of the country. Indian Railways has given in-principle approval to transport liquid medical oxygen container trucks on roll-on, roll-off basis. In a first-of-its-kind operation approved by the Railway Ministry, the Indian Railways will soon carry cryogenic tanker trucks loaded with liquid medical oxygen from one part of the country to another. The decision has been taken by the Railway Ministry in view of the request received from Maharashtra government for transportation of liquid oxygen into the state. The railways have said that through this mechanism, a significant amount of transportation cost and crucial time can be saved while delivering medical oxygen to healthcare facilities, especially in view of surge in COVID cases.
The total vaccinations across the country have approached nearly 12 crore mark today, with more than 26 lakh vaccine doses were administered. More than 66,000 COVID vaccination centers were operational, marking a rise of an average of over 21,000 operational vaccination centers. 45,000 centers on an average are functional on any given day. Workplace vaccinations have also enabled such a high turnout of beneficiaries. The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country stands at 11 crore 97 lakh 87,239. Meanwhile, 2,17,353 new cases have been reported in the country in the past 24 hours, taking the cumulative positive cases to over 1 crore 42 lakh. 1,185 deaths have also been reported, taking the total to 1,74,308 across the country so far. The country's COVID-19 recovery rate declined to 87.80%.
A total of 19,486 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 were reported in Delhi during the last 24 hours. In the same period, 12,649 people recovered and 141 deaths were reported in the city. Presently, the total number of active cases of COVID-19 in the national capital is over 61,000. Meanwhile, more than 76,000 beneficiaries have been vaccinated with COVID-19 vaccine doses in the last 24 hours in Delhi. With this, so far, more than 24,50,000 vaccine doses have been administered. Delhi Police Commissioner S.N. Srivastava has directed all the Deputy Commissioners of Police to strictly enforce weekend curfew in the national capital. He asked them to utilize the outside force and police control room for strict enforcement of curfew and take prompt legal action on the violators. The weekend lockdown in Delhi, beginning from 10 p.m. last night, will be effective till 5 a.m. on Monday. More from our correspondent.
During weekend curfew, government officials involved in emergency services like health and family welfare and all related medical establishments, police, fire and emergency services as well as all other essential services will be allowed on production of valid identity card. All private medical personnel will also be allowed. Persons coming from and going to airports, railway stations and bus stations have been exempted on production of valid tickets. There will be no restriction on interstate and intrastate movement and transportation of essential and non-essential goods. No separate permission or e-pass will be required for such movements. Anupam Mishra, AR News, Delhi.
In Bihar, an all-party meeting has been convened in Patna today to discuss the COVID-19 situation. This meeting will be chaired by Governor Phagu Chauhan. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has hinted at more restrictions in the state following the all-party meeting to break the chain of COVID transmission. Mr. Kumar said if the situation continues to deteriorate, strict measures may be taken. Meanwhile, 6,253 active cases of COVID-19 were reported during 24 hours in the state and 45 deaths were also reported. COVID situation in Ladakh is turning grim as the number of active cases increasing by each passing day. Our Leh correspondent reports 245 new positive cases have been reported during the past 24 hours in the UT and 47 patients cured and discharged. Our Ladakh correspondent has filed this report.
With increase in arrival of people from different parts of the country, the graph of new COVID positive cases is climbing up. Just 46 active cases on 1st March now gone up to 1,363 with 1,295 in Leh district alone. While reviewing the alarming COVID situation in Union Territory, Lieutenant Governor R.K. Mathur instructed to go for 100% testing of inbound passengers at entry points. He also reviewed the capacity of beds and oxygen supply. On the other hand, Leh District Disaster Management Authority DDMA Chairman Shrikant Sused directed Border Road Organization and Contractor Association in Leh to ensure that COVID protocols are adhered and laborers are tested and isolated upon found positive. With Ramesh Chandra, this is Yangchan Dolma for AR News from Leh Ladakh.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Polling begins for the fifth phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. Voting also underway for by-elections in 12 assembly constituencies spread over 9 states and 2 Lok Sabha seats. Election Commission curtails campaign time for remaining 3 phases of West Bengal assembly elections in view of pandemic. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviews medical oxygen supply in the country, directs to increase production to meet growing demands. Ministry of Railways approves to transport liquid medical oxygen container trucks on roll-on, roll-off basis to save transportation costs and crucial time in view of surge in COVID cases. Nearly 12 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses administered so far in the country. Over 2,17,000 new cases of COVID reported in the past 24 hours. CISCE defers Class 10 and 12 board examination. Lockdown extended to 20 districts in Chhattisgarh to contain COVID spike. U.S. President and Japanese Prime Minister hold talks in Washington to counter increasingly assertive China. And in sports, India clinches 7 medals in women's wrestling Asian Championship titles. Chennai Super Kings defeat Punjab Kings by 6 wickets in IPL cricket. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
In order to curb the increasing pace of corona infection in Chhattisgarh, a total lockdown has been imposed in 20 districts, while in the Dantewada district of Tribal Bastar Division, lockdown will be imposed from 18th of April. Till now, orders for complete lockdown have been issued in 21 out of 28 districts of the state. In remaining 7 districts, the time limit has been fixed for opening of commercial establishments. More from our Raipur correspondent.
In Chhattisgarh, lockdown has also been imposed in Tribal Bastar and Bijapur districts. In order to effectively implement the lockdown, flag march was carried out by the police administration in Jagdalpur city. In the other districts of Bastar division, where the lockdown has not been imposed yet, weekly markets have been banned. Besides, the time limit has been fixed for the opening of shops and hotels. Meanwhile, to ensure the supply of ration for poor families during the lockdown, the state government has allowed the distribution of ration for month of April from the shops under public distribution system. All COVID protocols will be followed during the distribution of ration. Vikalp Shukla, AIR News, Raipur.
Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray has directed the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation or BMC to make the test reports available in time. Besides, he has also asked the BMC to give prime focus on availability of medicines. While reviewing the prevailing COVID situation in Mumbai municipal limits, he said that all machineries should have good coordination to mitigate the crisis. We have a report from our Mumbai correspondent.
In the meeting, CM Thackeray said that early detection of COVID will help in containing the caseload of the city. He said all testing laboratories should work towards providing the test reports on time. BMC Commissioner Iqbal Singh Chahal said the second wave of COVID began in Mumbai from 10th of February this year. He further said that 85% infected patients do not have any symptoms. It was informed in the meeting that there are 153 COVID hospitals in Mumbai in which 20,400 beds are available. And in coming week, the bed capacity will reach 22,000. Chahal said even though Mumbai's new cases are in the range of 8 to 10,000, but even then, around 10,000 patients are recovering in the city on a daily basis. Kunal Shinde, AIR News, Mumbai.
Meanwhile, Maharashtra reported a spike of 63,729 fresh COVID cases and 45,335 patients were discharged post-recovery in the last 24 hours. According to the state's Public Health Department, 398 fatalities were also reported in the last 24 hours.
Gujarat has administered over 1 crore doses of vaccine against COVID-19 across the state till date. Quoting the State Health Department, AIR Ahmedabad correspondent reports that Gujarat has completed the vaccination of 1 crore 13,881 persons so far. AIR correspondent report that the state has registered the record number of new cases of COVID-19 yesterday.
Gujarat has recorded 8,920 new cases of COVID-19 yesterday. Maximum 2,842 new cases reported from Ahmedabad, while Surat recorded 1,522 new cases. 3,387 patients recovered and were discharged from the various hospitals. 94 patients lost their lives yesterday. With this, the death toll due to COVID-19 in the state has reached up to 5,170. Gujarat has now 49,737 active cases at present, out of which 283 patients are on ventilator. Meanwhile, Gujarat government has fixed maximum charges of HRCT CT scan at ₹3,000 across the state. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
In light of the nationwide surge in COVID-19 cases, Council for the Indian School Certificate Examinations has deferred the board examinations for Indian Certificate of Secondary Education Class 10 and Indian School Certificate Class 12. The board has informed that the final decision on new dates of examination will be taken by the first week of June this year. Earlier, CBSE had cancelled its board examinations for Class 10 this year, while it postponed the examinations for Class 12. Famous Tamil film actor and Padma Shri awardee Vivek passed away in Chennai this morning. He was admitted at a private hospital yesterday following a massive heart attack. He was 60 years old. An incredible comedian, Vivek had entertained people of Tamil Nadu for over 3 decades through his 200-plus films. A disciple of former President Abdul Kalam, Vivek was involved in afforestation and other social welfare activities.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has asserted that terming India's actions in Afghanistan as being indirectly aimed at Pakistan is an absolute fantasy. He said such insinuations undermine India's prolonged effort towards a peaceful and developed Afghanistan. Participating in the Junction Kabul The Road to Peace session of the prestigious Raisina Dialogue 2021, Dr. Jaishankar affirmed that India will do whatever is in its power to ensure protection of Afghanistan's interests. Speaking about the negotiations between the Afghan government and Taliban, the minister said that all such peace processes should be both led and owned by Afghan people.
The real issues today is what would be a fair outcome which will create durable peace. To create durable peace, it has to have a buy-in of everybody. It cannot be the wishes of the most forceful set of people in that society. That's not how durable understandings are reached and maintained. Afghanistan needs a double peace. It needs a peace within, it needs a peace around. And unless you have both, the neighbors also need to lay off Afghanistan and let the Afghan people do what is in their best interest.
President Joe Biden yesterday sought to present a united front with Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga to counter an increasingly assertive China as the U.S. leader held his first face-to-face White House summit since taking office. Biden hosted Suga for talks that offered the president a chance to work further on his pledge to revitalize U.S. alliances that frayed under his predecessor, Donald Trump. China topped the agenda, underscoring Japan's central role in U.S. efforts to face down Beijing. Other pressing concerns at the talks included China's increased military movements near Taiwan, its tightening grip on Hong Kong, and its crackdown on Muslim Uyghurs in Xinjiang.
And now, news from the world of sports.
Chennai Super Kings celebrated their captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni's 200th match for the team with an easy 6-wicket win over Punjab Kings at Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium last night. Put into bat first, Punjab scored a paltry 106 runs for 8 wickets in the 20 overs, aided by Shah Rukh Khan's 47 off 36 balls. For CSK, Deepak Chahar claimed 4 wickets. Chennai Super Kings easily chased down the moderate target in just 15.4 overs, losing 4 wickets. Today, Mumbai Indians will take on Sunrisers Hyderabad at 7:30 p.m. at M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai. In the other sports news, Olympics-bound Indian wrestlers Vinesh Fogart and Anshu Malik clinched their maiden Asian Championship titles yesterday at Almaty, Kazakhstan, as India ended with 7 medals from the women's event with 4 gold. India also bagged 1 silver and 2 bronze medals. Indian women Divya Kakran in the 72 category, Vinesh Fogart in 53 category, Anshu Malik in 57 kg and Sarita Moore in 59 kg bagged gold medals. Sarita and Divya have now won back-to-back gold medals in the event, the first 2 Indians to do so. Sakshi Malik finished with a silver medal in the 65 kg in the final. Indian women also got 2 bronze medals through Seema Bisla in 50 kg and Pooja in 76 kg. Indian tennis star Ankita Raina took a set-off 2017 French Open winner Latvia's Yelena Ostapenko before going down 6-2, 5-7, 7-5 in the opening match of the Billie Jean King Cup World Cup playoff tie last night. In the second tie, world number 621, Karman Kaur Thandi lost to her much superior world number 47 opponent Anastasia Savastova 4-6, 0-6. India will now have to win 2 reverse singles and a doubles today in order to advance to the qualifiers, while 1 more defeat will push them back to Asia-Oceania zone. Andrei Rublev of Russia held his nerve to complete a stunning 6-2, 4-6, 6-2 win over 11-time champion Rafael Nadal last night to reach the semi-finals at the Monte Carlo Masters for the first time. Sports Desk, AIR News.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. Srinagar will have a generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. Jammu will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. Leh is expected to have an overcast sky. Gilgit will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. And Muzaffarabad is also likely to have a generally cloudy sky with moderate rain.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. As curfews spread across the country, a front-page top headline in Hindustan Times writes, 57% of India under curbs as deaths soar on Black Friday. On nationwide panic over shortage of medical oxygen, the Tribune quoting the government writes, tankers with oxygen need no permit. Hoping to escalate vaccination to beat the severe disease, the Pioneer notes Covaxin production to double by June, 7-fold by July-August. The Economic Times adds, aims to scale up monthly capacity to 100 million doses by September from 10 million now. The Hindu write, UK not for extradition of Nirav Modi in Punjab National Bank fraud case. ICSE, ISC exams put off. Class 10 students can opt not to take board exams, reports the Indian Express. Statesman quotes the chief economic advisor saying, economy in better shape compared to previous COVID-19 wave. And finally, amid concerns that RT-PCR may be failing to detect SARS-CoV-2 variants, the Times of India clears it by quoting the centre saying RT-PCR can detect variants found in India.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Polling begins for the 5th phase of assembly elections in West Bengal. Voting also underway for by-elections in 12 assembly constituencies spread over 9 states and 2 Lok Sabha seats. Election Commission curtails campaign time for remaining 3 phases of West Bengal assembly elections in view of pandemic. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviews medical oxygen supply in the country, directs to increase production to meet growing demands. Ministry of Railways approves to transport liquid medical oxygen container trucks on roll-on, roll-off basis to save transportation cost and crucial time in view of surge in COVID cases. Nearly 12 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses administered so far in the country. CISCE defers class 10th and 12th board examination. Lockdown extended to 20 districts in Chhattisgarh to contain COVID spike. US President and Japanese Prime Minister hold talks in Washington to counter increasingly assertive China. And in sports, India clinches 7 medals in Women's Wrestling Asian Championship titles. Chennai Super Kings defeat Punjab Kings by 6 wickets in IPL cricket. And with that we end the morning news. Have a nice day.